Here we go. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. And welcome to tonight's episode of the Pathfinders podcast. This is episode 28, I believe. Yeah, 28. I am Tree0311, if this is your first time watching. And here with me is my partner in crime.
Hello, everyone. I am Nazeris.
And we are the Pathfinders, and we are charting the way through all the nebulous information surrounding Star Citizen and its development. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late getting started. Nazaris and I were having our normal setup banter, and oh, look at the clock. Time to get started. But yeah, we are back. Didn't do an episode yesterday because it was Halloween and it was my son's first Halloween, so got to go trick or treating as a family with a bunch of other families and all the little kiddos running around in their Halloween costumes. It was a good time, and we gave him a little piece of a Reese's, like the Reese's bars. They're like a Twix bar, but it's Reese's, and that might have been a mistake. Yeah, he was definitely hooked. He A got it everywhere, and B, when I tried to take it away after I thought he'd had enough, he got real angry at me. So yeah. But yeah, if this is your first time watching, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, Robert Vose in chat, '07, good sir, thank you for joining us. This is a long form podcast. Oh, go for
it. Is 07 a wave or is it a salute?
Salute.
Because I've heard it both.
I've always used it as salute.
I always use the line across as like the motion blur in animation.
First time chat from, let's see, Ali Marie. Is that it's small on my screen? Hello, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Ghost 1800, what's up, bud? Thank you.
This is wave. Okay.
So okay. It's a wave, except for you don't have a hand at the end. You're a pirate who doesn't have their hook attached.
But he doesn't have the motion though.
But yeah, this is a long form podcast, and we try to alternate weeks. 1 week we do our sort of bespoke content where we do deep dives into aspects of Star Citizen and its development. And we pick all sorts of different topics. We do scanner anomalies, which are the things that Nazaris and I want to investigate personally. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm curious about this. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to do a focus scan on this topic. And then we do spectrum pulses, where we take questions from the community and we go out there and we find as much information as possible. What we do with these things is we present the information to you in an objective manner, so that way you have all the information. We show you the sources, all that, and then we give you our subjective interpretation of that information. And try and keep it as unbiased as possible. And then in the episodes, we always include our show notes, so that way you're like, hey, where did they get this information? You can look in the show notes when these are uploaded on my YouTube. Down in the bottom of the description, it'll take you to a Google Doc, and it has screenshots that we got, links to different pieces of information from the website and other sources, all sorts of good stuff like that. And then we also do summaries of the Roadmap Roundups, and then read-throughs of what we do is we combine the monthly reports into a single document, because they share a lot of the same paragraphs, so that we just make it one document, and we say, okay, this is the Squadron 42 team, this is the PU team of this branch, and we read through their subject, their pieces, and we do an entire read through, and then we also provide subjective interpretation on things. Like Nazaris is way more technically minded, and so he reads the engine stuff.
What should be next week, right? The monthly reports.
Or monthly report should be tomorrow, but we'll read it next week. Yeah. Yeah. So next Monday, barring any scheduling conflicts, is when we'll be doing the combined monthly reports.
Unless, of course, and this is a great time to actually, seeing how we missed Monday again for like our second week in 3 tries. Anyone in chat and anyone who listens to this, which day is better for you guys, Monday or Tuesday? Because we had a stream like a couple episodes ago, where
yeah.
we actually got a lot higher viewers live when we missed our Monday and streamed on a Tuesday. So, all right, Ali says Tuesday. So, my schedule is horrible. I have stayed. I know what that's like. Um,
I should put out a
so yeah,
poll.
we should put it on a poll.
Yeah. Well, I did my first poll on the YouTubes yesterday. It'd be nice if Twitch could do the same thing, but I think what I'll
Twitch
do is
definitely
I
has
will.
polls.
Does it?
How I set
Okay.
those up, how you set those up, I have no idea. I just definitely know they have polls.
Okay.
Is
I
it
will
just
have to
slash
look into
poll?
that. Oh, in chat?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
no
okay.
slash poll. At least I don't have access to it. I don't know if that's
Slash poll. Oh, open a menu, setup menu to create a poll.
Dun, 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 dun. Look, I can do the streamy thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clicked it
So
and it doesn't do
what we
anything.
have for this week, as Tree was mentioning, we have the Roadmap Roundup, or the Roadmap Roundup review, or R3 as I like to call it. We also have going over the Shiny Tracker in conjunction with the Roadmap Roundup review, and then we have our scanner anomalies. That S is in quotations. Tree has his scanner anomaly. I started a scanner anomaly, which I will tease when it's my turn to not give my scanner anomaly, because the subject I chose way too late, and it is bigger than I thought. The title of it, I'll tell you now, will be Aegis Dynamics Who. So that is your little sneak peek there. I'll let you guys know kind of what it's gonna be at the end when I would have given it, just as some like tidbits for those who are here or watch it later on. But yeah, are we ready?
Yeah. Before we switch over to our presentation view, and we'll that way you guys can see the roadmap roundup as we're going through it and talking through it, as well as the Shiny Tracker Delta report. Just a couple little channel updates. I did start a second podcast because I'm a glutton for punishment, called Armchair Admirals and Generals with Atira and Night Cobb. So if you are a fan of the Astropub and Paul Shelley, you may have seen those two on his show before. Atira Kell has been on there with me, but we decided to start a podcast that is mainly talking about aspects of Star Citizen and particularly things gameplay related from the perspective of military personnel and veterans. And so that first episode is up on my YouTube, which I will drop a link to in chat. And so I would really appreciate if you didn't catch it live or you haven't watched it already, giving it a listen and giving us some feedback. Leave a comment in the comments, like and subscribe, help the channel to grow, all that sort of stuff. But we want to continue, just like with Pathfinders, we're very open to feedback, and you cannot improve that which you do not measure. And so again, leave a comment in the comments to provide us feedback for Pathfinders here, as well as Armchair Admirals in general and journals, or hop in my Discord and you can chat with us. We have specific subsections of the Discord for the Pathfinders podcast and Armchair Admirals and Generals, where you can give us feedback. You can ask us questions directly. But yeah, on that note, I'm going to drop those links in the chat, and then while I transition us to the other screen, and Nazarus, I will let you take it away with the roadmap roundup. Do you have it up on your monitor?
I do.
Alrighty, and here we go.
Does it work? Everything work? Hopefully. Oh, a couple seconds prior, so I have to wait for that. Okay, cool. Everything works fine. All right. So, as per usual, when we do read from things or reference things, posts from CIG, I like to start out with the opening comments specifically from CIG because this is their words and what they're trying to convey to us word for word. It says, "Happy Wednesday, everyone." Yes, it's obviously not Wednesday for us, but anyway. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insights into the decision making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who helped to make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Roadmap Roundup, the CIG community team. Those guys are like tirelessly working, and next year is going to be so busy for them because they didn't do CitizenCon this year in full. Next year, the community team takes CitizenCon to a whole new level, we assume. So they're going to be working so much overtime. All right. So notable changes for October 26th, 2022. It says, with this published, we're extending the majority of the downstream team schedule to Q4 2022, so the current quarter, with the few remaining coming in the subsequent publish, so in 2 weeks. We also, does it say, I believe we also, no, that's not until, I thought they said something about the Q3 stuff coming soon, but no. I feel like I heard that. It might be in the next patch, or the next update patch. Yes, the patching of the roadmap. No,
Oh,
that's not it.
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, the Q3 2022 will be
Right.
beginning of next year.
Okay, so we'll get that in the first quarter. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. For some reason, I thought somebody said somewhere.
Wait, no, you may be right.
Because it's 4 quarters, not 2. Yeah, it's 4 quarters.
Yeah, because we are in Q4 now, so we should be getting Q3
soon.
Yeah, because they're finishing the downstream for Q4 2022, and yeah, I think
Jake said I remember something being talked about, so I assume that it's either the next update or the update after that.
Yeah,
that will get the Q3.
Yeah, because usually during the quarter is when they extend into the fourth quarter. So we're in Q4 right now. So at some point in Q4, and scheduling things get all screwed up, but they should be giving us the Q3 on the progress tracker for the upstream teams. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I don't think they've started any of that I've noticed. We'll have to take a look.
Now that we've had all the quarters screwed around, Alpha 318. In the last this week in Star Citizen Pose, we mentioned that our next major update, Alpha 318, has been testing with our Evocati group, with our next test aiming to go out later this week. As we mentioned, after evaluating data from our recent Evocati test, we are targeting early December for live release. This update will not impact AIE, which is the next event coming next week, the week after next, 18th, whatever the 18th is of November. Which will now release in Alpha 3.17.4. This has been reflected on the release view with this publish. Additionally, as the Drake Corsair is due to release during IEE, I said AIE before, IEE, we're moving this card on the release view from 3.18's to 3.17's column. So, we are getting the Drake Corsair with IAE. I keep wanting to say AIE. How it rolls off my mouth. It's fine. Anyway, do you want to take it 1 over 1? Or you want me to just read through it?
Oh, we can go for 1 for 1, yeah.
All right, so yeah, you on Steve.
Oh, yes. Release view. So the following card has been added to the release view. The Greycat STV, which is Sport Terrain Vehicle. Yeah. Or
vehicle?
I don't remember. Sport Terrain or Sport Transport. Either way,
we're so good at this.
Yeah, the only thing that matters is it's lovingly called Steve.
Steve,
that monkey, Steve. When I was on the 24-hour live stream, the first section with "Hey, it's Nick," and he did that. He so perfectly did that damn monkey from was it Cloudy Have a Chance of Meatballs? I think.
Sport Terrain. Okay. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I was laughing so hard. Like my mic, I was laughing really hard and my mic cut me out because I was laughing so hard.
Nice.
Building, implementing, and balancing Greycat Industrial's utility ground vehicle, the STV, as a game-ready vehicle. Since they showed us the concept art for the UTV, I'm wondering if they will reveal that on the progress tracker or if it's even on the progress tracker.
So as per,
Because I mean,
and
it's
I need
technically
to like
announced now.
get, yeah, I need to get like this as like a screenshot I can show every time this question comes up. Jake said, just absolutely straight out said, if we know the name of the ship, it is an announced ship. It will not be in an unannounced state.
Mm-hmm.
So that we know the other vehicle, it should be a. We should be able to see the work on it that's been done on the progress tracker. So no ship we know the name of is an unannounced ship, barring stuff releasing and then having to spend an extra week or 2 weeks post Citizen Con to get the Spirit actually on the progress tracker because they went on break after everyone finished with Citizen Con. So yeah, and the Steve is an absolute amazing vehicle. Like it takes the portability of the PTV with the like drivability of the Cyclone. It's really good, and I love it. All right, so next up is new rivers in Stanton, setting up biome-specific objects, rule, biome-specific object rule sets around bodies of water, and distributing those by placing additional rivers and lakes on Microtech and Hurston. Why not on ArtCorp or Crusader? Well, one, ArtCorp's not going to be touched till they want to redo the tech they use to build ArtCorp because it is a special blueberry. And Crusader's gas. There's no rivers. Just figured I'd lay that all out. So back
I'm
to you
looking forward to seeing
for
those new rivers. I know they don't have any gameplay, but I'm hoping they'll put locations on or around them just to, when they're adding the more locations in Stanton. I hope that
Mhm.
oh, okay, well, I'm going here and there's a new location, and oh, look, the beautiful river or nice, idyllic lake nearby.
Yeah,
It'll be because he
it's
said
going
that
to
they're adding
change.
a crap ton of them.
Yeah, it's really going to change how and where they place what are they called, outposts, because have we seen this like years and years ago that when they build a planet they don't know where they're going to place all the outposts. They're not. It's not procedurally generated where the outposts are. They'll actually go and scout locations. So it is probable that they'll choose locations with beautiful views like a river. So Outpost next river is coming to a planet near
Don't fill up your canteen in the rivers on Hurston.
you.
Make
Don't fill up your
sure
canteen on
you,
Hurston.
yes, buy water purification tablets. Yeah,
Oof. Is that gonna be a thing? I wonder if
and
that'll be a thing.
that would be kind of interesting. Yeah,
Oh, you have
unless you want to
water,
lose
cause
weight really fast and potassium.
cause that's the thing for space games or like space lore is getting water or oxygen. So
Mhm.
if you have like a quality of oxygen, which they have said you're gonna have, will they also have a quality of water? Like, can your water purification unit on your ship break?
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping because we I talked about this with Paul, and he's mentioned it multiple times how
Oh, cool.
your armors and suits are going to have sort of like subcomponents and stuff to them.
Mm,
They're going to function much like ships, and I'm hoping that eventually as bits and bobs that you can add to your armor, you have so many slots that you can get your space based your space armor version of a damn camelback, so you're not having to carry water bottles in your backpack. You know, it's 2952. We should have
Michelin Man armor. It's just all water storage.
yeah, yeah. Um, or be able to buy special ones that recirc, that you can go all Dune. What are the name of
Hmm.
those suits called?
I have
What are
no idea. I don't.
oh
I
man,
don't keep the names of Dune stuff in my head.
well, a lot of the names are really weird. Yeah,
They are.
the
And I'm trying. I
we
can't think of a single House of Trades. There we go. A single name.
yeah we the last lore, yeah, the org relic hunt that we did, we went and found the river and the lake on
Hmm.
Microtech with the derelict outpost at it looking for relics, and it was a lot of fun. It was super cool, and I just loved getting in my Valkyrie and just bobbing and weaving just barely above the trees, following the river. It was sweet,
I
especially
should go
with
there
the
with my Nomad.
well, and the terrain changes. The when he showed us off of those cliffs, that looked
Mm-hmm.
great. That would be so much fun with a hover vehicle. Far more than yeah, still suits. Thank you. God, why couldn't I think of
Hmm.
that? Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you.
You would be better jumping off of those cliffs and possibly even making it to the other side. The Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Someday.
So,
Someday.
do we want
So
control surfaces or do we want two-wheeled vehicles? Two-wheeled vehicles, obviously.
yeah.
Uh,
Sand Cave Archetype, establishing the visual language, creation pipeline, and quality standard for a new Sand Cave archetype. With this release, cave networks using this archetype will be placed throughout the Stanton system. Um, so I don't think they mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, both Nazareth and chat, but I don't. I think they're just adding additional caves. They're not converting old ones over. Like or I mean, are we getting on Hurston? Are they not only going to convert the caves that they have in sort of sandy biomes to sand caves, or are they just going to add sand caves, or are they just going to convert all of them over?
I'm pretty sure
That's
it's both. They're
yeah.
converting some, but also a moon that doesn't have them or it has a
Uh huh.
couple is getting either more or convert. I don't remember specifically if they said they're adding more.
Mm-hmm.
I do know they are converting some, but I don't know if they said if they're adding any.
Also, the sand cave archetype thing that they are, uh, this plays into my scanner anomaly, which is part of the reason I
Ooh.
chose it. So we'll talk more about that later.
All right.
Yeah.
So, security post Korea, or Korea, whatever you want to call it. Reactivation. So, it's called reactivation. A little bit of lore here, because the story when we actually got it into the game in the first place was that Crusader Security, I can say Crusader Security, was moving out. They were deactivating the station. There wasn't enough activity around. They didn't need it anymore. So we're now 2 or 3 years down the road. SPK, yeah, that's called. Yeah. The amount of illegal activity has skyrocketed in the past few years. So Crusader Security is like, yeah, we're gonna move back in. So we're reactivating. So the title says, Crusader Security post Korea will take a more central role in Stanton's security. Not just Crusader, Stanton's security. Crusader Security has moved in full-time staff and has begun storing confiscated contraband aboard. Unless given prior authorization, the station will be off limits to all civilians. This is like a lot of like story happening in the verse. It is really refreshing to see. Like, not only is it going to be a hub of the crossroads between lawful and unlawful players, but also give a place to not just, oh, you have to go blow up drugs. You have to get them over to the authorities. So it's pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah.
cool
With
indeed.
with
I
Jumptown, I can imagine in order to get paid, you're going to
mm-hmm.
have to deliver the if you're going the lawful route, you're going to have to deliver the confiscated drugs to Security Post Korea.
And
And
I really hope that they have plans for a cargo elevator, not just the single box, like
oh
little,
gosh, yeah,
what are they called? The dumb waiters.
yeah, the little
Uh,
mission box things, and yeah,
could you imagine? I don't know how much people, I haven't done a new Jumptown event, so I don't know how many boxes people go off with, but I can't imagine doing more than 5 into
I
this
want to
little dumb
see.
waiter.
I want to see people using tractor beams to sort of do like like an assembly line thing, but for people,
Mm-hmm.
we're just tossing the boxes to each other in a line, all the way from
Mm.
the ship on the pad into the
Yeah.
station to have it be dropped off, because yeah, that it talk about an inefficient way to go about it. Like they should make it so it's part of like the cargo refactor. So if you have those
Well,
mission boxes, You bring them in, access the terminal, and it says, "Oh, okay, you've got 35 of these. Congratulations. Here's
I
your
forget who
bounty."
said it. Let me actually go over there. But the cargo refactor we're getting in 318 is by far not the cargo refactor that is the entire cargo loop.
Yeah.
It is the tier 0 cargo refactor. I can't. I don't see it right away. Anyway, so it is possible that, or probable that the Korea reboot was developed in spite, I guess, of the cargo refactor, and that will be added on because they need some feature that's yet to be established, or something that's not coming in, or just they didn't want to have to wait for the cargo refactor to develop the new Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible we get an update sometime in the future, like the thing says, where it will take a central role in the entire system's security.
Yeah.
So it will probably be a focus for a little bit.
I know we mentioned it when we talked about Bounty Hunter V2 in that Spectrum. It was a Spectrum post that we did. We had a big segment on Bounty Hunter V2, and I'm hoping that the security stations will be places where you can drop off bounties when that becomes a thing, as well as picking them up. Besides just the bounty offices, maybe that are at either other stations or landing zones. But I also am hoping that this is just the first one, and I hope that they make multiple security stations, because it just seems very odd to me that Crusader Security would be the only people that had a police station out in space in their space, as if there isn't any law breaking going on in the rest of the Stanton system. And at Dell,
Person either murders you or doesn't care.
yeah, well, so like if you remember from the Quanta presentations and the one that we showed heavily in the when we did Bounty Hunter V2,
Mm-hmm.
they showed how there was basically pirates operating out of Krakens near trade lanes or something. But then in the second video, the one that we looked at for Bounty Hunter V2, instead of Krakens, it showed space stations. And so we don't know if those are actually Krakens or if they're space stations, if they're a mix of both, because some of them that were labeled look like they were in the air in Halo, and others look like they're out in just open space, kind of like the Krakens were from the first presentation. So it'd be interesting to see if there's a mix of them, but they were all over the map. They weren't just huddled around Crusader. Crusader isn't the only place that's getting that has an increase in crime. It's all of Stanton. I think but it's just Crusader that is really sort of the nexus for the Nine Tails, but we do have the other gangs, So I'm hoping that we'll see more of these stations, so that way, if you've got more places to turn in bounties, more places to turn in drugs, and for these dynamic events, more places where the cops spawn from, yeah. Yeah, Ghost
Makes sense.
1800 says there should be one for each corporation. Yeah, there should be at least one per planetary system. If not more, probably just one I think is fine. But then, what's the name of the UE Navy station in Xenothreat?
Actually, ArcCorp would not have one.
Why not?
ArcCorp does not take care of their own security. They give it
Oh
to
yeah, they have Blackjack, right?
They have Blackjack, which is not a policing force. It is a hired gun, basically. They work
Yeah.
as mercenaries.
Well, maybe they have
Would
a
they have a
Blackjack
station?
station. Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe they have
So,
assumed control of a previously, privately held one or something, or maybe Blackjack Security operates out of private Idrises or something.
I hope they do something flavorful like that, because just having copy pasting the Crusader security,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
like how they function, how they're organized, model, the Crusader security model, just copy and pasting all around, and then just dumping whatever crap lore on top of it to justify it. I would really hate that.
The way they
Like
could do the
Blackjack
Hearthstone
is
security one
mercenaries.
would be cool. Like they could really make that one flavorful.
Hurston's security police station should just be a floating prison.
Yeah, like a big box. It should be super
That
impressive looking from the outside in. Yeah.
do the what the shape is it? The Oblivion station.
Mm-hmm.
Just a shape, basically a giant triangle.
Yeah. I just hope that this is a tier 0 implementation of this thing, and then
Yes, Klesher is the Hurston territory.
yeah, and then they will add more of them in different locations later on. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But yeah, the last one is new missions, Orison. Bounty, assassinate, clear all, and other missions to take place on the platforms created for Siege of Orison, which in the future will be distributed across the planet of Crusader to create further content. Yeah, Crusader is going to be covered in all sorts of different platforms for a variety of different uses. And just like with ArtCore and the big tall buildings that they have with the landing pads and the freight elevators, you're going to have the building interiors. You're going to have the Crusader is going to be dotted with all these floating platforms of various uses that you will have procedural mission content at for a variety of different things. So yeah, it's we really have. They said version 2 of Orison, but it's like version 2 of tier 1, and but with the procedural tools. Oh, there we go again. Procedural tools. Weird. It's not just gonna be Orison. It's a giant giant planet. Yeah. It's gonna have a whole lot of these things floating around it. It'll be interesting. The other thing that's interesting for me is if they add a whole bunch more of these things around the planet of Crusader, kind of like how ArtCore has multiple areas. There's Area 18 and a bunch of other different numbered areas. I wonder if those other areas will get their own like mini spaceports, or will they have stations in orbit above them? I don't know.
It's gonna be,
as in like multiple
get real
landing
cheap
zones.
to make them soon. So
yeah. Funny you say that, Nazeris. It's almost like there's a theme.
I don't necessarily want them to shrink the atmosphere distance of Orison, because they like that and they have certain art things and reasons why. But I would like them to just raise the speed cap. What's the thing called in your car?
So when we were I didn't mention it during Armchair Admirals and Generals, but during QCM mode, there's basically 3 modes, and with QCM mode, and there's risk reward. There should be, if we're understanding it right, there is a good potential risk for versus reward for it. But QCM mode basically allows you to, take off the speed limiter, but it drains power from your shields and your weapons, and you don't have to be in quantum mode in QCM mode. You can be have the power going to thrusters and just go really fast in normal thruster flight, or you can have it be in the quantum boost or standard quantum mode. So there's 3 modes of flight within QCM mode.
I just don't want to take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to leave
the
atmosphere.
That's what I'm saying though, is in QCM mode, your speed limit is unparked, so you could, and you have that power diverted to your engines. So I think that it's going to mean that you can get out of atmosphere, out of gravity faster. Maybe not dramatically faster, but I think I don't think it's going to be like the SCM mode where you have to do 250 meters per second all the way up to space. No, I think you'll be able to, okay, well, I can choose to go slow and have shields and weapons because I'm in a place that isn't safe, or I can take the risk and I can go fast. And maybe with all these dynamic events around Orison and Crusader, maybe you want to go fast and get out and risk it. Risk getting ambushed by Ninetales and Crusader's atmosphere, or you slow boat it up with your shields and weapons, and you play it a little bit safer, but you're exposed for longer. I think that would make it pretty interesting and dynamic, but also
Yeah.
not punish us for going down to Orison at 250 meters per second and back. If you can be uncapped, so that way you have all that power for your engines, and then you can actually, starting out, go 400 meters per second, and it scales up from there. From the whole gravity aspect. I think that would be a nice trade off, in terms of, oh well, hopefully Crusader security will protect me, and I'll just try and get out of Atmo faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for the Roadmap Roundup this week. One thing to note is they always link the Roadmap Companion Guide at the bottom of the Roadmap Roundups. This is your friend. If you are having trouble understanding the roadmap and the progress tracker, join Nazeris and I in our Discords, and we will help you free of charge. We might ask for some UEC as a tip, but yeah, it's kidding. But
For now.
this is also a good way to, if you have questions, there are a lot of good answers in the Roadmap Companion Guide. Nazeris and I refer back to it constantly while we're pouring into this. And I'm going to, let's see, I need to get out of full screen because we're going to go on to the Shinytracker. Actually, I need to pull that back up over there.
Yeah, we referenced the what's it called? Something companion, Roadmap Companion. I don't forget what it's called.
Yes.
Basically, at least once a week, as we're like, or at least once every 2 weeks, as we're like, oh, stuff came out. What does this team do? Oh, they're this team. Okay. What does this team do? They're that team. Okay. Just to make sure, like, there's a lot of different, like the progress tracker, and the entire company has made a web of like interdependencies and who helps who, and there's a second web we don't see, which is somebody walks over and asks someone a question. That is not a web that's mappable, but there's a multi-tiered Tesseract web that CIG has made, and it is one of absolute creative power. They have found a way, as far as I know, outside looking in, found a way to make a global 1,000-person studio. That's what, 5 studios?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm counting Montreal and Turbulent.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so 5 studios feel like a small indie studio. Where you just like get up and like walk to somebody's desk or just call someone up. Hi, what are you working on? And you just do that. That's like a thing that they do. It's great. I love it. I would love to just sit there, just like sleep in the offices for like a week, or go camp in their offices.
The other thing about the roadmap and the progress tracker, well, let's just say progress tracker because that's what we're looking at. This is the visual representation of all the data that you get, but it's condensed to make it, as pretty and visual appealing, but also as digestible as possible. But there's also background data behind this that you can't readily see, and that's why Nazeris and I use the Shiny Tracker, and I mostly just use the Delta report. There's another report as well, but the Delta report's easier for me to follow because they're like when they do the big updates, there's an obscene amount of information.
I'm actually gonna. I don't know if you know the feature, but there's an extra feature on the not Delta report.
Let's see.
There's hidden
This one?
scheduling.
Oh yeah, yep.
So go to the not Delta.
Yeah, the scheduled deliverables one, right?
Yeah, and then click on a team, like vehicle
Mm-hmm.
feature team. So go to the first deliverable and then click on vehicle feature team.
Yeah, I did. It does that.
Yes. So that, even on the progress tracker, all the equals signs, the entire bar would say that's the chunk of work. The Shiny Tracker is able to pull data that says they weren't actually scheduled in this 2-week period. So somebody did work over here and somebody did work over here, and the line is where we are.
Ah,
So
okay.
even though it might show up on the progress tracker as a continuous bar, there was a break. And that will be important for theory crafting and
Mm-hmm.
seeing which dev's working. Because this one says it has one engineer, so obviously it's just the one engineer working, and he had a 2-week gap in the middle. But that also, we can track devs better, which is kind of like a scary thing to say. But we can track who's doing what easier, so we know where they're coming from, which task they're going to switch on, which team and which profession is doing it. Because engineer and artists are very vague in the worlds of game development.
Mm-hmm. The
Yes.
the app. This is like tracking the scheduled deliverables bit and using what you were just talking about. That is like varsity level development following. Um, I'm still very much JV with I like my progress track the Delta report for the progress tracker. It's definitely easier for me to follow just because I'm looking at dates and then I'll click the deliverable. It'll open it up and then I can open up the bar and see, okay, when are these teams working on them? Are they full-time sprints? Are they part-time sprints? And then you can click on that sprint and see what
Ooh.
disciplines are within it. So I go
A,
back and forth between the Delta report and the progress tracker itself when I'm looking at specific deliverables.
a good one for the we'll call it the schedule spy feature
Schedule spy.
is the the AR and map marker system.
Uh-huh.
There is technically 4 different sprints. There's,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
every 2 dots is, no, every 2 dots is 2 weeks, right? Every dot's a week, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, there's 4 weeks, I think, in the middle. I'll have to ask Hobo again. And then there's a giant gap currently, and they're about to do another 3 or 4 week sprint with 4 weeks in the middle again, and then another 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But on the progress tracker, solid bar.
Ah.
So it
Craziness,
will
man.
be a thing that like you'll also see a lot what shows up in the month report and what shows up on ISC and SCL. Because if they're not working on it for 2 or 3 weeks, they're not going to show anything because they haven't been doing anything. These gaps also might show up when there's a dependency, which I imagine would show up in the map rework.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that will just give us a little more information that we can better understand our favorite game that we obsess way too much about.
Yeah, and if you are
Oh, and
if you're
equals
looking
are
for
sorry.
oh, I was going to say if you're looking for more context, this is how you get it. You know, just
Yes.
looking at the roadmap roundup or even just looking at a big old bar on the progress tracker that does not give you much context. And people always complain about that. And they don't realize that you can click on this. Oh, well, look, there's more context. Okay, that's character work just for the actor feature team. And then you can click on the deliverable view for character work and you can see all the teams working on it. And then you're like, well, wait, why are some of these lines dashed and why are some of them solid? Well, dashed means that they're working, on it part time, splitting the team between time between something else and this. And then if you want to go look at character work on the scheduled deliverables report, let's see. I don't want character art. I want character work. There we go. So if you want to look at character work on the scheduled deliverers report, you can look in detail using the dots and the equals is, and even these symbols.
I don't know if they're tilde. No, they're
They're
I don't know what this is called.
tildes. Yeah.
They're under tilde. Anyway,
Hmm. That
equals
gives you
means full
even
time. The squiggles mean part time.
yeah. That gives you the details
We have a
of
legend here.
these bars. This is just a picture to make it. Oh, okay. This is a picture, but it doesn't give you the
Oh, there's
details, the
so
context
many
of what it
things.
is. This is the actual. This is what is behind those bars. So, if you nerd out on that stuff like we do, this is for you. And if not, you can come here and Nazareth and I will explain it to you and help you put it in context
Okay,
and
so each
be less
pair of
frustrated.
symbols is 1 week.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it splits on Wednesday. So first half, second half of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how you read that.
So we're not going to go through
Speaking of the
each one
shiny
of these
tracker,
in detail, but Nazareth has an announcement, and then we'll skim through the Delta report on the shiny tracker and show you some of the highlights and lowlights.
yes. So speaking of the shiny tracker, if you actually go to the homepage, yes. Where does it say? Where does it actually say his name?
Oh, I got you.
It's on here somewhere.
Um,
I read his name. I specifically looked at it so I could actually point it out, and now I forgot where. Oh, it's right at the top. By Shiny Hobo. So Shiny Hobo made this amazing piece of kit, and we're actually going to have him on the podcast next time we do a Roadmap Roundup. So in 2 weeks, we will have our first guest, and someone who's actually made something that we go to every 2 weeks. So it's gonna be great. We're gonna have some questions for him, see what he's doing, see how he made the thing, and see if he's got anything planned for the future. And what else does he do? Instead of like, what's his favorite stuff? So that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be kind of interviewee. We don't know exactly how we're
yeah,
gonna
he's
do it,
gonna
except for
provide us
questions.
some insights, and we're gonna learn more about him, and
So if you guys got any questions for Shiny Hobo, the developer of the Shiny Tracker, be sure to contact us. Put
why
either
is your
live
name
chat or
Shiny Hobo? I've been a paramedic for like 15 years. I've not been a single hobo who was ever shiny.
I'm. Have you ever been to Colorado?
Oh yeah, yeah.
There are professional hobos. Well, professional beggars,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily hobos. But there are not hobos. There are beggars that own homes.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That is suspicious. Why is all I see is Invader Zim? You're right. That is suspicious. All I see is anyway. Anyway, the Delta report. Ah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the next light. There's so much I'm excited for. The roadmaps or the monthly reports. Like, man, Star Citizen is just kicking off. I can't wait till 318.
Need to move this over. So I screenshot a handful of the deliverables because obviously they've got you know
Wait,
90
hold on.
modifications.
I
What?
just read the first one. Unannounced was removed.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's just an
Bug.
error
That
in
has
that.
to be a bug.
Well, that it was removed and replaced with announced, whichever. Like, is this the Steve
Okay,
or
well we can figure that. It
I know
was
how to do this. Hold on.
21801.
STV.
801.
So, yep.
That was the
Right.
Steve. Okay. So
Hold on. Yeah, it was from August 1. Yep.
21.
Yeah, so they just removed
Okay.
instead of changing the name, they removed it and re-added it as the
There's
Steve.
probably some metadata reasoning to that.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine
Yeah,
because
because here it is.
there was a I don't exactly know what to call it, but there was a misnaming thing, something called like Ship 42 or something. And that was named that
Oh
way
yeah.
so no ship was actually leaked. So there is a bunch of obfuscation done when all these things go up. So an unannounced thing has zero metadata on it, whereas it's Grey Cat has all the metadata of the Grey Cat tile. So like unannounced is not going to have anything to do with the naming of the Grey Cat, and so he makes sure Jake makes sure that nothing accidentally gets leaked if somebody gets a hold of something that's attached to one of these files. So I imagine that's what that was, and that's why he does it, as in add one then remove it. Look, sounds like a lot of work, but I guess if he doesn't want it leaked, and obviously Chris doesn't want it leaked. Like Chris is the last person who want it leaked because, as we said, I'm pretty sure it was the last episode. Chris likes the showmanship. All right.
Sorry, just
All right, where do you want to start?
Discord beeped at me. So yeah, the unannounced removed, added Great Hat STV. Interesting that they added chapter 28 of Squadron 42.
I wonder if well, I have two theories. One, it's the final chapter, so they want like it to have the most polish, so they waited as long as possible to add it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the I can't English today. The narrator team, what are they called? Writing team, narrative team, saw some ways to better the storyline somewhere, and they needed an extra chapter for that.
Yeah.
Those are my two theories. Are either of them ever going to be substantialized? No. No way to substantialize that at all. So, yeah, there's just no way of knowing that one. But those are the only like two scenarios I can think of why they would add a whole chapter.
The first one for deliverables that were updated is actually a good example to use for context. So Osiedo Station, that's that giant comm relay thing that we've seen before. You can click on the green name on the Delta report, and it'll take you directly to the deliverables view for that deliverable. And so,
while you're doing that, I'm gonna go
Osiedo Station end date was extended from beginning of February to the end of November. You're like, what the heck? How come they haven't updated it? How come they're just now doing that? Squadron 42 art added 27 days of work. You're like, well, what the hell? What's the difference? Squadron 42 art. This is a part-time sprint, and so that initially ended back here, and they added more work. Well, part-time just means that Squadron 42 art was already working on this team or on this deliverable, and instead of making it so that there's a sprint that ends here and then there's a break and another sprint that is 27 days up here, it's all just one sprint and it's marked as part-time. But if you go to the other view, the scheduled deliverables report, I'm not going to try and find it in here, but you'd be able to find it in here.
Control F Osiedo Station.
Yeah, and let's see, Osiedo.
Control F first.
Damn it, no, I don't want that. I want see? So this is the context. Here's that work that's scheduled. Here's the giant break in between that work. But it's still considered part-time because they stopped that sprint here and then they're picking it back up out here somewhere. And so
which means those devs were working somewhere else in the meantime.
Exactly. And we got done what we need to get done and we moved over here. And so this is not me. I'm not shitting on other content creators, but this is the issue with so many people trying to cover the progress tracker and you reading the information wrong because it sets expectations inappropriately and it doesn't provide the proper context. because you see this and you're like, good grief, why is it taking them so long? How are they working so slow? Because you can go to Squadron 42 art, go to Yasato Station, and see that there's 4 artists, and like, god dang, they're working on it for 4 people working on it that entire time. No, they're not. They stopped working on it back here, and then they went and worked on something else, and then they started working on it over here. And so if you really want to set your expectations about a specific thing appropriately, you need to have a lot of accurate data points in order to sort of triangulate, your and get a good accurate expectation. And that's why, Nazareth and I, instead of getting upset about things, we use this tool to come here and get the context. So that way, because people will be like, "Oh, you can't make any predictions." No, no, yeah, you can. You can make predictions. You just have to, use the monthly report and the elements. You have to compare, that deliverable, to something similar, and follow their progress on in the monthly reports, but also as well as what's scheduled and then how it is scheduled to see, okay, how much work is being done, how long is this going to take, who's working on it when. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's not for everyone. But don't be upset if you don't have the time to put in the effort to get the context appropriate. It's okay. This stuff is confusing as hell. And again, if you have specific questions and you want you want to go down the rabbit hole on something, ask Nazareth and I. We will hop down that rabbit hole with you, just like
Instantly.
yeah, we will happily go do that with you in Discord. Just like oh gosh, what's that goofy ass fairy tale that's basically everybody's on acid.
Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, we will be Alice in Wonderland with you. Nazareth and I will put on our goofy hats and be the Mad Hatter and help you make sense of this stuff. But we have the tools, we have the technology, and we're going to interview the guy who made it.
That's how addicted to this stuff we are.
Yes, yeah. It is a drug. I have a problem, and I'm okay with it. So yeah,
I like House's thing better. Yes, I'm addicted. No, it's not a problem.
Yeah. I'm a functioning Star Citizen development addict.
Yeah.
I still hold on a job. I take care of my wife and kid, where everything's good. But that Osceola Station right here at the top is a perfect example of why the progress tracker is a helpful tool, but it is a flawed tool unless you use Shiny Hobo's tool. Present goofy hats, please. I'm upstairs. Let me see if there's something in the closet. Hold on.
I have goofy hats. Just go with this one. It's good enough, right?
I don't have a hat, but I can do one better. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, I have like 5. Then I have normal hats as well.
Can you see my pink tutu?
Oh God!
I found a pink tutu in the closet.
Not a hat.
There's no hats. No,
okay.
All the hats are in my closet downstairs, and this is just the extra storage closet up here in the the bedroom or the upstairs.
You want to ask? Room. Oh, I will.
Yeah.
By the way, what's Blizzard? Who was it? No, Ghost. There's a new movie for Zim, Invader Zim. So go watch the movie.
But yeah, so, oh yeah, I need to pull that up. So the first deliverable that really caught my eye, and it's because something that Nazareth and I keep a pretty sharp eye on, that had been updated, was the AR and map marker system rework. So everything that is UI related, Nazareth and I both watch like a damn hawk. He's just wearing. How am I wearing it wrong? How do you wear a tutu right? It's a fluffy hula hoop. Or are you talking about Nazareth's hat? judging the way I wear my tutu.
I'm sorry, I just remembered the comment in Paul's video.
But so the AR and map marker system rework is the all the UI things that show the location of things on your screen. You know, AR being augmented reality. You know, as well as no, that's not the HUD elements, right? Yes.
So the AR bit is going to be the ping, the UI ping that they showed us at CitizenCon.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know which part that the card system is going to be under, and then the Mobigless update is going to be its own thing.
Oh yeah, I have those. I have those as well.
And
But yeah,
the
the AR
NFTs
and
is
map
its own
marker
thing,
system
so.
rework. That's all stuff that they showed us at CitizenCon. Like you said, with the ping to see, okay, what things you can pick up. You know, here's, you know, you did a ping and here's the augmented reality of where, you know, that shows you where these things are or what they are. Those sorts of bits of information. And then the map marker system rework is the mini map and showing where things are on the mini map as well. And it should also be the, you know, how they showed you the interior map of the Idris. That's what this is as well.
Yep. Yep.
And so we'll go ahead and click on it, and we can take you directly to the deliverable.
Actually, the map and radar system rework is the internal map.
Oh,
so that is just icons.
No. The map on radar system rework is the star map.
But they said it's the same system now. Yeah, actor feature is on here.
What?
Not actor feature, AI feature. Motion cap, narrative, squadron art.
I'm looking at the.
I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one. It's fine.
Okay. But they just showed this off at CitizenCon, and the end date was extended from beginning of September to the beginning of November. But it's the UI tech team. So context, public roadmap companion, UI tech team, which is a downstream team. They only get their schedule one quarter in advance. So that just means that they are continuing their work on this, the UI tech team, and that sprint is likely to get extended out into quarter one as well. It is most likely not going to release. You know, it could, you know, because it is the beginning. The other thing is certain teams aren't on the same schedule. So that's why the sprint ended at the beginning of September and not the end of the quarter. And then they just extended it another 3 months. So that team is likely just extending it for their quarter. And then once they get closer to here, then they'll extend it again for another quarter or however long they need to finish it. But it doesn't indicate that it's going to be releasing then. It might, but I kind of doubt it because it's for Squadron 42 right now, and they're finishing it for Squadron 42 and then porting it over. And so I imagine we might get additional work added to it, say in Q1 23, related to porting it over.
Yeah, and as a general rule of thumb, we normally always expect when the bar reaches the end of the quarter that is just going to get extended.
Yeah,
just
for
hands
the
down, just going to get extended.
Yep.
It just keeps our expectations managed. So the map and radar system rework. This is the description of it. An overhaul of the underlying system and associated UI for the star map, radar, local area map, and mini map.
Oh.
So that is the ship map.
Okay, cool.
So AR and map markers is specifically markers.
Well, and AR markers isn't just the FPS ones, but that's the example I was using.
Yeah, but it'll be icons and things all over the place.
Yeah.
All the icons.
God, everywhere. That looked really good at CitizenCon. Oh, man. Whew.
All UI is just really popping off right now. I wonder, is Zane still the director of UI? I want to know.
I don't know. You should
I want to know if this is still Zane's work or Zane's over. Is Zane still over, or did they get someone else, and that's why it's going somewhere? I don't have anything against them. I just want to know which it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other things, just Archon Station, same example as Asiedo, Squadron 42 Art. They got done with something else. Now they're back to working on Archon. Um,
Which is
just more
insane.
work
They're
being
still working on
scheduled.
Archon.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. That thing big.
Over a kilometer
Um,
long.
yeah.
Their
I would say
head overheated.
probably more
Ugh.
than that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and this is again one of those context things, is bombs. And so the work for bombs initially, because bombs were released in, what was it, 315? And so bombs were initially released like way back here. Yeah, because 316 was quarter 1. So they were released in 315 in Q4. And that work basically ended this sprint. Well, they just elongated, or let's see, the weapon content team just picked up bombs again. And you're like, well, wait a minute. No, they've been working on it since November. No, no, no. Their work stopped. It's still a full time sprint because they were working on it full time when they were working on it before. And then they stopped working on it. And now they're picking it back up because they just added 18 days of work leading up to this date. So I'm not going to pull it back up, but it would look like the Osiedo station where it'd have a ton of dots, dot for basically all of 2022, and then showing them picking it back up at the end of 2022.
It's actually
Well,
not on the scheduled deliverables page.
maybe because it was previously scheduled.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If we could see it, that's what it would look like. But it's like, well, wait a minute. They already worked on bombs. Why are they working on more? They just introduced another bomber.
And we
that
have
was
bombs
just
that are yet unreleased.
yeah, and that was just tier 0 of bombs. And we know that the Spirit is actually in production. It was leaked. So they're working on the size 5 bombs. They're probably going to be making improvements to the bombing gameplay because it's super rudimentary. But, hey, they're picking the work back up now. They're going to be continuing that work. Bounty Hunter V2 got another sprint added to it. The narrative team, that's exciting because that just means that the more work is being added into it. They're continuing on with that work. The next one, I thought the cluster bombs for the A2 were size 5s as well. Or
No, they're
are they
smaller.
size 3s? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because
I
they're
wonder.
a carpet bomb like whole structure.
Yeah.
So they're smaller, but there's like
Mm-hmm.
20 of them.
Yeah.
And then the Spirit is just specific bombs. Not as specific as a torpedo or a missile, but they are specific bombs still.
Yep. All the chapter work for Squadron 42 extended from the end of one quarter to the end of the next.
Not all of them.
Not all of it. A lot of it, though. But
There
it is
are
interesting that
a
some are not
notable
extended.
few
Yeah.
that actually look like they're done. So I want to preface this looks like they're done with
Either they're
most of
done
this is
or
specific art.
pausing on
Some
this
team,
one and going on to another. Yeah.
some of this might be that the art is done and they'll come back when the team, like let's just say what is this team? Level Design 3. Let's say Level Design 3 finishes up on one chapter, and so that the chapter work ends. There's no currently scheduled stuff for the next little while in that chapter. But in the next quarter's update, or the next month's update, whatever they want to do, they then get their schedule to go work back on that again. So what looks done now does not necessarily mean it's actually done. Other
They are
teams can be
burning
scheduled in.
hard on these chapters, though.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they are picking up. There are certain ones in here that they are picking up that they haven't worked on for quite a while, which means suggests that okay, this feature is done. This piece of this is done. We can pick it back up. So, chapter 25 hasn't been worked on for over a year. Chapter 27 a year and a half, and now they're picking it back up again. So,
go to the progress tracker and show chapter 1 and then an assortment of other chapters. Specifically something like chapter 3.
Ooh, too far.
If you just type it in chapter, it'll just show you all the chapters. So that's what chapter 1 looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look at something like chapter 3. That's probably not done.
Yeah. They're burning hard to get this one done. This is probably one of those ones that they're getting ready, getting to vertical slice or, completely playable, whatever. And okay, they're, maybe getting close to wrapping this one up or wrapping up another one. And now they're finally, or they're coming back and doing some polish work on this one after getting some QA feedback,
Yeah, I would imagine that chapter 1 is in like the final stages, whereas chapter 3 is something that they'll be starting to put more force into now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
There
I would
is
imagine.
quite a lot of teams doing a lot of work, though. Chapter 11.
There's what is it? There's almost 1,000 people working here now, and is it 60 or more % of the companies on Squadron?
Depends on how you break it down.
It's a large amount.
Because we did talk about that in a recent episode where it's like, well,
Yes,
they're getting their work, their assignments are guided by the needs of Squadron, but it's all shared things, shared gameplay activities. So
if you want more information, go watch the last episode.
was it the last one? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
But there's a lot of more people are working on these chapters than any location, or I don't think it's I don't. If we're looking at the entire people that are working on these chapters and the rest of the game, there's probably more on the rest of the game than these chapters. But there's a good chunk on these chapters. And there is a good split between the community. We'll call it the CIG community because it's 2 games technically. Between caring about only Star Citizen or only Squadron or a fade in between of both. I, for one, love Star Citizen, but will enjoy the crud out of Squadron. I am dying to see Squadron, specifically because I've played a few other story-based space games, not a lot, and I haven't finished any, I don't think. But after playing Halo Infinite, the story mode, it's like I want an actual space opera epic thing. Like I haven't made a lot into Infinite, but it's the story takes a back seat to grindy gameplay. So I'm ready for a good story in space. Not grinding mechanics, and I know that Squadron will not have grinding mechanics in story mode. So I'm really looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. So I might be a little more gun ho talking about Squadron than other people, or not. Well, some other people.
Lots more interesting work. Nothing that stands out to me as super fascinating or anything that wasn't unexpected or anything that I'm really keeping a close eye on. But until we get down to, let's see, where is it? We're just talking about that UI and FPS radar scanning. End date extended from just a couple weeks ago to like right meow. And wait for it to pull up. So this is also FPS radar scanning. That stuff that they're showing us. That was looking really good. I'm really hoping that we will see this in the not too distant future, because it's I'll have to pull this this sprint up for the active feature team and see what they're doing for it, because we just got the update, and we're not getting another big update to the progress tracker for like another 2.5-3 months, and to see this work after they just showed it to us looking as good as it did, stopped right there. I'm thinking that we're getting really close for the FPS radar and scanning tech update. and hoping we'll be seeing that in the PU pretty soon. And by
I
pretty
wonder
soon I
what the
mean in the next
difference
couple
is.
quarters.
Because like I said, the map system, what is it called? The map and radar system rework includes FPS.
Yeah,
So I
and
wonder
I wonder if
what's
it's
the
because the one is the AR
it
and the
does not
map, and
include
the other one is
FPS.
the radar and the. Oh, okay, there you go.
It says star map, radar, local area, and mini map. It does not say FPS map. So there is some difference between your ship map and the
Hmm.
system
Yeah,
and
the
the
tech using it.
FPS map. So
Yeah, because the FPS radar and scanning is improved signature system supporting much greater distances and dampening of signatures by environmental interference and larger signatures, which they showed us.
mhm.
Improved scanning driven by the same signature system as the radar and ping, which we have in game right now, available in ships, ground vehicles, and FPS. So cool. Um,
Interesting.
the next one is near and dear to Nazareth's heart. Obviously, we know Gen 12 is coming. That was I thought that Sylvan did a good job presenting
Very good job. That was
the
amazing. And
yeah.
I really like I don't know if anyone at CIG can like pass along like that was like top notch like what I want to see in ISC. Showing us exactly like the nitty-gritty like this is a frame. This is everything that had to happen in a frame. This
For
is
the
the
tech stuff,
bottleneck.
yeah.
Like that is absolutely what I like to see in ISC. Like the background, not we sterilize this for YouTube. Like
Yeah.
he showed us exactly, and he
How do
like
you
even gave the
illustrate
caveats. Yeah,
these these technical concepts that are really otherwise would be hard to break down? And you're like, oh, here's a number. We reduced it by 33%. Right
yeah,
off the top. And not only do we reduce it by 33%, but now we've completely flipped the situation where now the CPU is not bottlenecking you. You're actually the CPU is waiting on, it has all sorts of extra time. So and that's without optimizations. That's just
yeah.
it's just working,
And
phase,
I like
which
the
is nuts.
refresher that he gave. He like mentions ray tracing, but also like, oh by the way, we have a guy who's like was hired and has background in VR. So that was all amazing to hear. So I'm hoping like within 5 years is my hope we get a VR version of Star Citizen. Well, not version, but integration, VR integration into Star Citizen. Yeah.
So
Let's
hacking
see.
tier 0. Hacking Tier 0, the end date was extended essentially 2 weeks, um, because they added a month of work. So like they added basically 2 weeks on the before this and 2 weeks after this,
Oh, and it
and it's
doesn't
just Squadron
actually hit the
42
wall.
art. It doesn't hit the
Oh,
wall. The only extra work that they added was Squadron 42 art, and they added a month. So the Squadron 42 art people are just taking a little bit longer to wrap it up. The only thing is Squadron 42 art. Um,
the weapon
where
feature
did it
team will
go?
be done this week,
Yeah,
and
hopefully
then
should be, because weapon
they're
feature
scheduled to be done.
is upstream, which is good. So if they were going to be extended, they might have already had it done by now. But Squadron 42 art is downstream,
1, 2, 3.
but they only extended it a couple weeks
Yeah, so there's
versus.
3 weeks with SC art on the schedule right now.
Mm-hmm. So
When this
I
came
don't know.
out, when this come out, Wednesday?
Yep.
What's
I think that
next Tuesday?
my prediction is that hacking will be a 319 feature to go along with bounty hunting.
That makes sense. I am like
And
in full reserve mode for whatever 319 is.
yeah,
I have no predictions for that.
And I think
I
we're going
got
to get an
nothing.
update on hacking in ISC this quarter.
I
Or if not this
don't.
quarter, beginning of next quarter.
I don't
Fingers
think
crossed.
hacking's this quarter.
Oh, I don't think it's this quarter. I just think we might see it this quarter, like an update, especially as once they put out 319 onto, stuff, or once they start putting stuff onto 319.
Mm.
Moving on, uh, life support, obviously that's going to be in the works for a while. Lorville Cityscape added narrative team and VFX
White
being
box.
downstream. So looking forward to seeing more work on that. But the
Oh, I
map and
know
radar
this is
system
white
rework,
box.
which we were just talking about.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I skipped ahead.
So the end date extended from the end of last quarter to basically the working end of this quarter, but it doesn't go all the way through. So hopefully, there's a lot more work added, but hopefully that means that the A will see some of this work soon, and B, when we get to this end of this quarter and get an update, we'll see maybe less going into this quarter. I'm hoping that because they've talked so much about it and how it looks so good and how it's been in the monthly reports a lot. I'm really hoping that the map and radar system rework is also going to be like a Q1 feature as part of 319.
So much going into this game the next year. It is
Mm-hmm.
insane.
Yeah, and it's so many of these things are features and mechanics that are huge, either additions or quality of life updates. That it's a 1,000% increase over what we have already.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was I like to keep an eye on because again it's UI is the MFD rework. So that one's going to be they're going at it for a while. Um, but they are adding work to it from the Squadron 42 UI feature team and the UI tech team, which to
A
me
whole.
suggests
No, that's 2 weeks. A whole 2 weeks
yeah.
added work.
But
Which.
what they did though is by adding those people, because they where did it go? They
It's
added
the middle
11
line
days
should be.
here and 11 days there. So, whoops, wrong one. They added those 11 days down here because of what teams are working on it that just got added, as well as the vehicle feature team. I think it's because they are adding those people because those resources are coming available after having worked
Mm-hmm.
on the other stuff that's UI
Mm-hmm.
related that we keep such a close eye
Yes.
on. The where is it? Mobiglass rework, also
You're
UI.
not skipping the whole C. You're not skipping the whole C.
Huh?
You're not skipping the whole C. You're not allowed. It's the whole
It's
C.
not
It's
on
like
there.
my. It was there. Where'd it go? Hold on. I
Because
saw it. I'm
it wasn't updated. That was in
maybe
the last one.
seeing.
These are just the ones that are updated.
Hold on. I swear I saw it.
Control F. Hold.
I'm control Fing. Okay. No, you're right. I'm blind.
Top currently scheduled.
Okay, so I've been lied to. I see. I see how this works. So nothing updated, but there's still work. Oh, because that's a downstream. Upstream? The longer one. Either way. 318 has the whole C. I guarantee it.
My
So where are
money's
we
on
going?
it too.
Mobiglass.
Mobiglass rework. Let's see, where were we? So much work. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The longer we have to scroll, the more stuff they're doing.
Yeah, so Mobiglass rework and it extended from the end of September to mid-November, not end of December. And
Dun,
they
dun,
added
dun.
narrative. They added narrative and UI feature, not UI tech, UI feature.
Ooh.
So, or not, they didn't add those teams. They were already working on it. They just added additional work from UI feature.
And what do you always say about narrative?
Narrative comes at the end of things. When things are getting ready to be released, narrative is usually towards the back back third, back three quarter of something before it goes delivered. And they did
Yep.
show us this. They showed a preview of it at CitizenCon, and it was looking
So
real good,
good.
looking awful functional. Um, and it's one of those things that's being made for Squadron and then ported over the PU, and they were showing it in game. So I'm very hopeful that that is something that we see sooner rather than later.
Yeah, if it's not 318, 319, I would bet.
Yeah, within the next two quarterly releases, I would
Well,
bet.
I say that, but the entire CitizenCon was Road to 4.0. They did say that all the stuff they were showing was 4.0 or subsequent patch. So
Yeah,
maybe it sneaks before 4.0, but 4.0 is like a big asterisk right now. Like nobody knows when it's gonna hit.
I,
It could
I'm
be
I'm
Q2. It could
betting
be Q4.
319 will be a big patch,
Mm-hmm.
a bigger patch than people realize, and that we're going to see a good amount of quality of life update, change things, additions that are going to make our
Are we
lives
gonna
easier.
get? Yeah. We're gonna get into player interaction. Then I'll tell you some stuff.
So Mobiglass rework, hooray! New player experience. Um,
Uh,
mhm.
as long as it's easy to shut off, I have no problem with. The
The
last thing I want is being locked in as a veteran player
oh yeah,
to being led around by the hand. Being led around is absolutely necessary in this game for the first half an hour for a new player. Yes, I understand. Don't just because it's the first time in a new patch, don't lock me into it. Give me a cheat. No, I almost said Squid Game. What is it called? Splatoon gave a cheat to people who knew the game. Star Citizen can give a cheat. Just let me shut it off.
hmm
I enjoy your work. Don't make me do it.
physical damage and breakability. Just the physics team and extended from the beginning of September to the beginning of September to the beginning of December. So they're just continuing on with that work. It's a part-time sprint. They're added more days. I'll have to look at this one in the other view just to see what that sprint actually looks like, under the hood. But they're
Which one?
continuing to work on that. Or sorry, physical
Breakability.
damage and yeah. Um,
Um, there
like
have been 3 different gaps. We're in
mm-hmm.
the middle of we're the current sprint, all full
Yep.
time stuff.
Yeah.
So it just looks like some time was spent because of a prerequisite or some holdup happened.
Yep.
So or
And
like a
then
vacation or something.
Rastar end date, and that's the tool that they're using to make outposts and settlements and cities. Here, we'll pull it up. That will eventually be in players' hands for making player outposts. Developing and implementing Rastar, a tool that allows the placement of modular structures on planet surfaces, including the deformation of the surrounding terrain to accommodate it. This will eventually be used by players to place their own structures, such as with the Consolidated Outland Pioneer. So, um, the Rastar Sprint Planet Tech team added 27 days of work. So here they are. Planet Tech is where is it? Oh, there we go. Planet Tech is a downstream team, um, and so they're just moving that another, but they only moved it a month. They only added a month of Planet Tech teamwork, not another 3 months.
I can
So it looks like Planet
imagine.
Tech is getting done with their work, and the VFX was assigned with 13 days of work. But VFX is also a downstream team, and they didn't assign anything beyond this. So
Hmm.
I'm interested to see, because we are getting an update on Rastar in 2 days. Um,
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what the ISC update does as far as providing context to this sprint, because Rastar also hasn't really been in the monthly reports.
Hasn't it?
I haven't seen it in a while. At least not not anything consistent. Not like
I feel
the
like it said
procedural
last.
location tool and the
I feel like the last month report they said they were pretty solid and they were adding features in
Oh
finishing.
yeah, no, I mean as far as like getting consistent updates on it, it hasn't been something that like we see every month in the monthly reports. Um, the rest of the stuff not all that interesting, except for the um, unannounced vehicle extended to IAE. Yeah, that's obvious. But this is the one that Nazareth and you and I saw way back, where it's just like 2 weeks of audio and VFX, and we're like, what? An unannounced vehicle, and the only teams working on it are downstream teams, and there's nothing else prior to that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they extended that work. So I don't even know what to think about this vehicle. All I know is VFX and audio are working on it and no one else. And so the only thing I can hypothesize is that this is something that they picked up, and haven't worked on since before the advent of the progress tracker.
It's an unannounced thing, so it's a vehicle we absolutely do not know the name of.
Yep. And they concepted it and put it into production and then tabled it and are now finally getting back to it with downstream teams.
I keep thinking like, oh, maybe it's the Cerberus. We know the Cerberus. Maybe it's the PTV. We know the PTV. The links. We know
Yes.
the links. It's
Mm-hmm.
not anything we know the name of.
Yeah, there's no vehicle tech, there's no vehicle experience, anything like that. The um, vehicle, there's no vehicle concept art. There's no what are the vehicle production teams called? The U.S. and EU vehicle. I
Hacking
forget.
experience.
No, the
Okay, so
um,
I keep getting confused between the two different areas, the Delta and the not Delta. Delta and deliverables on the Shiny Tracker.
vehicle content.
Um,
Yeah.
where was it? There was a not leak that happened. Not that happened, but that was caught. Where is your leak channel? There it is. Nope, wasn't even posted in there. I know it was posted in the Astropub. Ah, okay. So I don't know where the screen. I assume this came from the SE leaks or pipeline Discord. Um, interaction equip outfit. Interaction hang into hanger. Interaction hang outfit in hanger. Interaction swap outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said like, is this the cargo refactor? No, you dinguses. Player interaction tier what? Lockers in inventory. Read. It's it's right there. This is the locker system. Like this is the same locker system we saw in this vertical slice. It's the same locker system they've been working on since the first time we saw somebody flip a helmet. This is the goal. It's not the cargo refactor. It has nothing to do with the cargo refactor. There's only locker and inventory effect.
For the
As
game
far
editor,
as storing your current loadout and swapping out your loadout with the one you have on. It's all the same thing. Not the cargo refactor. I don't know who said that, but I'm not on their Discord, so I can't yell at them in person.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. But that is it for the Roadmap Roundup and our review of the Shiny Tracker Delta report and providing context about the development of Star Citizen and what's going on. And we have one scanner anomaly this evening, and I will try and not make it too extensive, but I think it's pretty interesting and pretty cool because this is one of those things that whenever people say, "Oh, it's taken them 10 years to make one star system and they're not even done," they're never going to have 100 star systems, they're never going to have 5, it's going to take them forever. No, that's not how this works. Tell me you're not paying attention to development, because They are building. They have built or are building things in order to build star systems and fill them with content and locations, largely procedurally, and that's one of the things that they're using to do so, with the absolute gods up in Montreal with their magic poutine. One of those things that they are using is the procedural locations tool. And so if you're watching right now, you're like, well, it says Mighty Bridge on screen. What are you talking about? Well, we're going to talk about the procedural locations tool and what enabled the procedural locations tool. And so the procedural location tool has been in the works for like a year and a half. It was first mentioned really back in the June 2021 monthly report, when the environment art team, they said finally they looked into defining building interior gameplay, creating a prototype layout, and looking into adding proper missions to it. They're also defining how this layout will fit into the procedural location creation tool currently in development by the tools team. And so when CIG decided to partner with Turbulent to make their 5th studio up in Montreal, a big part, the whole goal of that studio is to make star systems, not just planets, not just the asteroid fields, but everything that goes in it. And to do it, using procedural tools, so that way they could bam, 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 knock these things out with those procedural tools. And so far, what they have developed tool-wise and what they're using to build those tools, we're just starting to see the surface right now. And next year is when people are people are just starting to realize, oh, and next year when these things come into game, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, they got that much done, in that much amount of time, when it took them, however long previously to do similarly. Well, because previously you had designers and artists creating locations and environments by hand, and they've created procedural planets. The planets they make are done largely procedurally. They have all these tools where basically they're just setting a few parameters and then painting a brush over a circle, and it creates everything on the planet. Well, in order to make, and they have the same thing with asteroids. They have the same thing with, oh, we lost Nazeris' camera.
No, I'm going to disable it so it's not being distracting.
Oh, okay.
My cat's at the door, so.
Okay. You're not on screen though, right? Nazeris? I think went to get his cat. Anyway, but yeah, so the CIG and Turbulent up in Montreal have been hard at work creating tools, and so they first really got the tools for making procedural planets up and going. We went through multiple versions, and now we're in Procedural Planet Tech V4, and they're continuing to add tools within that planet tech, that procedural planet tech. That's what the river tech is. That's what the stuff that allows for more variation in terrain height mapping, and then adding all sorts of different aspects of the environment to it. So they add more and more and more to these tools, and you can think of them kind of like if you've ever been in Photoshop, all the little tools that you see in the toolbar off to the side. They're just adding more of those tools onto the sidebar within the tech as they improve it, in order to create more star systems and planets faster, but also create them with greater variety. Well, another great tool that has been developed and it was developed by Turbulent is called Mighty Bridge. And we're just going to watch a quick clip about Mighty Bridge and then talk a little bit about it.
One recent example.
This is from the May 5th, 2022 Inside Star Citizen called Tools Time.
Of a tool we developed is the Mighty Bridge.
Mighty Bridge is a plugin for the game editor that link the game editor to any other software.
Right now, the main usage is to be able to work in Houdini and have some effects directly in Editor.
With the Mighty Bridge, the communication is done in two-way direction. can send information and ask stuff to Houdini, for example, and Houdini, while doing the computation, is able to say, okay, you want to place a cave here? Give me all the objects in this 50 meters radius so that I can adapt the recipe and then send back the result. And with other technology, you don't have that two-way communication. So it's also help us doing more complex recipe and adapt the content to the game level.
The reason why the Mighty Bridge is important is there's a lot of technical resources and knowledge in all kinds of amazing tools, like, as I mentioned before, Houdini. And by providing a way that artists can interact with the editor from the tools that they know and love and have learned to use over many, many years, they can make more easily the stuff that they want.
There's no time in between of like thinking about the logistics of everything. It just like does it for you.
We made the Mighty Bridge thinking about the future so that if we want to use other technology, we can plug them into the editor using it. And for example, if we want to use Blender or 3ds Max or Maya or Substance Designer, for example, that we are using, but if we want to plug them into the editor, we could use Mighty Bridge to do that.
Tools programming is core to whoever interacts with anything to make content.
I've been working in the industry for 15 years. I never found a project that has such ambitions. And I feel like this game tends to always say there is a goal and we will do whatever it takes to reach that goal.
Mighty Bridge is just one of the ways tools programmers work to improve the workflow of all developers, allowing for an unprecedented two-way communication between independently developed softwares that were never intended to speak to one another, shaving the downtime and removing the need for import and exports all over the place. But that's not where this week's Tools Time story ends, for we're about to go big with a tool that we've been dreaming about internally since 2019. A way to test our game and infrastructure at the scales we need while leaving developers free to continue developing. Let's meet the Cloud Test Launcher.
Alrighty. So that was Mighty Bridge. And so Mighty Bridge is done. The Mighty Bridge version 1 is done. The tech is in, it works. They have fully hooked up Houdini into the editor. So this allows them to create additional tools within Houdini that they can basically take things that the developers are making in Houdini, and when they make it in Houdini, it basically just goes straight into the editor in the engine. There is no, okay, I have made this in Houdini, now I need to export it and then, into a file and then import it into the editor, and you've got all this downtime in between. And then if it doesn't work right, you have to go back to Houdini and change it. It's, you're just doing it all in Houdini and all goes straight in the engine and it just works. And they're making more and more tools within, for use within Houdini as part of Mighty Bridge to be able to make things in the edit, in the editor in engine, far more seamlessly. The other thing is that it uses two-way communication between the editor and Houdini. So if you make something in Houdini and it puts it into the editor, if the editor needs additional information, it will ask for it and say, oh, okay, you need to supply these parameters in order for me to generate whatever this is. And basically it'll tell you, and then then you put it in and it makes it for you. That's what they're showing you on screen. And the other cool thing is that the Mighty Bridge, they designed it so that it's future-proofed, so that way they can use it to plug in other software that designers use, designers and artists and developers within CIG use, so that way they can further reduce that downtime, allow the devs to work within the software that they're natively familiar with, and then seamlessly port their work over into the editor. So this could eventually be applied to character artists who are making armor, or the weapon, the weapon art teams, the people who make the the usables that we have, the weapons and tools, all these different potential uses for it. But right now, because the remit for Montreal is to make and populate star systems, they're using Mighty Bridge in order to create tools for making locations and points of interest. And well, let me pull my note back up. So the first mention of Mighty Bridge is back in January of 2022. And this was after they mentioned the procedural locations tool in June of 2021. So the beginning of 2021, they are starting up Turbulent over in the Montreal team, and they're like, okay, we need you to do this. And they're like, all right, well, we're going to work on making procedural location tools. How do we do that? Okay, well, one of the big time sinks is having to import and export all your stuff from these different softwares into the editor. So we're going to create a tool that does it for us. So they've been working on Houdini, and they finally start talking about it in January of 2022. And so in January 2022, Montreal Tools completed the Mighty Bridge tool, which is the integration of Houdini into the editor. This allows for various teams to use Houdini to create new tools that will help help content creation across development. For example, the tools team is using it to develop the procedural locations creation tool alongside developing solutions that will be used for derelicts and other locations. And so they go on to mention it basically in every monthly report from January all the way to August. They skipped July. But a couple of the ones that are, let's see, of particular note. Let's see. This is March. So they're at, they just are talking about every monthly report. They're talking about adding additional functionality in Houdini to Mighty Bridge, things that they can use in Houdini that port straight over via Mighty Bridge into the editor. And version 0.5, so not a whole numbered version, was released in April of 2022. And then in let's see where to go. And then in August of 2022, they reached their next big version. The Montreal-based tools team released Mighty Bridge version 0.6 to the dev team. This update adds 2 new functionalities: version 2 of the object spawner, which allows the team to spawn multiple layers of objects onto geometries and planet surfaces, and the cable generator, which I showed you, which generates complex cables from a simple spline. Things like they use for in space stations and underground facilities, and in the future asteroid facilities. So yeah, since they completed the tool in January, they've been continuing to iterate on the tool and add more and more, since completing Houdini, not Houdini, Mighty Bridge, they've been continuing to iterate on it to allow more and more things to utilize Mighty Bridge within Houdini, so that way they have got more and more tools to create things faster. Instead of having to make things by hand, through these painful processes, they're making all these tools that allow you to basically create the locations much quicker, whether it's the just generic outline of the location or the all the different set dressing. And so moving on to the procedural location tool. Where is it? Like I said, they first mentioned it back in June of 2021. That's how long they've been working on this. They had to build a plugin in order to start making the tool. But then they started mentioning specifically the procedural locations tool in January, when they finished the Mighty Bridge plugin. And so each month they've been also, that they mentioned Mighty Bridge, they've also been mentioning the work that they're doing with the procedural locations tool and all the different things that they're using it for. And let's see, the big highlight, big things of note. So on the technical art time, two major areas, and this is from the March 2022 monthly report. On the technical art side, two major areas of development progressed. The first is the procedural location tool, which will speed up the production of certain locations. Certain locations, not all, but certain ones. Other locations are going to be developed using Rastar. And we're going to be talking about that in another scanner anomaly coming up soon. The team are currently designing the tool's template system to allow the designers and artists to procedurally generate various locations, such as derelict outposts and settlements, caves, and underground facilities. And I'm certain that this list will also include asteroid facilities. So the procedural locations tool basically will generate like 80% of the location for the designers based off of the templates that they've created for the different locations. And then the designers can further use additional tools like that cable tool and a bunch of other things in order to basically lay out props and set dressing to make the location look unique and fit the environment that they're going for. Kind of like how they were able to take the space stations from Stanton and they took the same art and it's the same layouts from the space stations in Stanton, and they mashed them up, moved them around using Mighty Bridge and the procedural locations tool, and that's how they are making the Pyro space stations, and then making them look different. They're using different tools in order to dress those same layouts that have been created differently, but the same in the same way but differently, to make them look like these rundown stations, but they're doing it light years faster than the stations in Stanton were created. So the where's the next one? So the procedural this one is for May 2022. The procedural location creation tool is also progressing well. The foundation is now a lot stronger, and the team have begun creating basic layouts. They've also moved to create supporting corridors and corridor loops, as well as supporting the various required templates, space stations, caves, underground facilities, etc., soon asteroid facilities. It's all the same. On the exterior of it, it's the same tech. But then on the interior of it is what is different, and it's basically the rooms that it creates, and the layouts are based off of the parameters that they set. But then the interior of the room that you can see looks different based off of what tools you're using. So if you're creating a space station or a cave or an underground facility, the tool uses what they've made to create the layouts, but then the interior that you see is based off of which aspect of the tool that you're using, but it can do it 1,000 times faster. The team's current goal is to get version 1 to designers and artists so they can gather feedback and get it production ready. So they're moving really fast through this. This is the really big example of why this is so important, and this is going to impact everything when it comes to generating locations. On the technical art side, the procedural locations creation tool is progressing well, with the team expecting to put the first version into the hands of the team soon. This is June 2022. So first version into the hands of the team soon. Advancements were made to a suite of asset scattering and environmental integration tools. For example, the first prototype will be a tool to create a destruction trail behind spaceships in derelict settlements. Instead of having to edit by hand, the environment artist will be able to draw a spline that will automatically create the trail before adjusting a set of variables to make the trail look exactly how they want. This type of tool can represent great gains in productivity. For example, creating a trail by hand took an artist around a week. This tool should reduce that time to half a day. So instead of 5 whole days, it's 1 half day. think of how much more that artist can get done when they have 4.5 extra days available to them, because this one tool was able to make their life that much easier. So just when they show off the derelict settlements that they're making right now, the proof of concept was the reclaimer, and then they are furthering these tools to say, okay, here's the proof of concept, here's the new tool, make it faster. And that's how we're going to be getting a massive variety and massive numbers of places like the derelict settlements, places like the new outposts and the crash locations, all that sort of stuff. And then the last part that's just just adds on to that. Let's see. The team is, and this is August, so it wasn't mentioned in September's monthly report. We're looking forward to October's monthly report soon, so that way we can follow up on this. The team is also nearing completion of the first version of the procedural locations creation tool. This will allow them to create and edit simple layouts of space stations in minutes, and will dramatically decrease the time it takes to make stations out of existing modules. So when they were first showing us back in like ISC or whatever in, I think it was like 2017, 2018, them making these, the stations that we have in Stanton, it took them months. It was weeks and months just to create the layouts of the space stations. And now they can do it in minutes because of what you saw. I'll show you show you that clip, because it generates it procedurally. It just, you click and it's done. They're also in the final push of the first version of the tool that will help create derelict settlements. The goal of this iteration is to be able to create 80% of a derelict settlement procedurally. This heavy lifting will allow the artists more time to polish and finish the location. Reaching this goal will mean that a derelict settlement will take weeks rather than months to create. So you're talking about, likely a 5 to 10-fold improvement in productivity for derelict settlements, for space stations. And that same improvement in productivity will be applied to underground facilities and asteroid facilities. All the locations other than the bespoke ones that are made by, and they're not really bespoke, but they kind of are. But this is, if it isn't made by Rastar, which is the outposts and cities, it's made by the procedural location tool, and they're working on that tool, working hard on it, so that way, in the very near future, they'll be able to build out those locations super fast. Basically, when you're talking about how long it'll take to create a star system, if it takes weeks for designers to make settlements and space stations versus months, it means that they can get the same amount of space stations and settlements done in those months, 5-10 times as much that they would have otherwise. And that's how you go from a star system in a couple years to a star system in a few months, a couple quarters, if not less. And here is the example on the Turbulent website of the Mighty Bridge tool at work. So this is it procedurally making the interior layout of a space station. And you can see, how there isn't a whole bunch of assets scattered on the floors in these rooms and everything, but the layouts are there, and the layouts are there based off of the rooms. So it takes these layouts and the rooms that, okay, I need a space station layout and I need it to have this, and this room. Check all these boxes, and it'll create the layout based off of the space that you give it. It'll do the same thing for an underground facility. It'll do the same thing for a cave. You want the cave to go deep or shallow and go wide, or based off of the exterior of the space station. We have variety in those. It will say, okay, here's the space you have to work with. Here is where these airlock connection points need to be. Make me a layout. Boom, it does it. Houdini simulation tool allows for the automation of a ship's destruction. So ship crash, a reclaimer crash, instead of having to hand place it and crash, and the pieces go all over the place, and that's how you see them. For cloths, here's the cables that they're showing you, and this is early, but you can basically placing those to make them look how you want. Everything you need to dress an environment after it's been procedurally created for you, using procedural tools to not only dress the environment but create it in the first place. So that's why this stuff is super cool to me, because it's just ingenious to be able to make it that way. It's a quantum leap in production over what a lot of game companies do, just because they don't want to invest the time and resources into making tools like this, because we don't need these massive environments, we don't need these big levels or giant universes, or we can just copy and paste it. CIG is taking a different approach, and it's taken a while to get there, but now we have tons of layouts and tons of assets, and now we're getting the tools needed to be able to take those assets and put them, make places to go with them, and those assets already have all the tags in them needed for the gameplay that goes with. So things will get made, and they will just work.
Are you telling me that Call of Duty does not want to spend 10 years making procedural generation for a 4-kilometer map?
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
This is why, they're like, oh yeah, we could spend a couple years making these maps and make them look really good, doing things by hand, because we don't want to spend the time and money making tools to make things differently. It's just the way it is. I'm liking the results, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of this as they make the underground facilities, take them from the white box that we're seeing to full production, as they do the same thing for asteroid facilities, as we get more space stations.
Yeah. Was it? I have thought. Where was it? Oh, I really hope that CIG company makes a lot of these tools available on the market. Yes, they are very necessary for Star Citizen, but if you were to give the suite of tools that they're using to another company, maybe think Bungie, what could they do? What could they get the use out of it that CIG is? Could they make a Destiny 3 with expansive worlds, not just you have your maps and tight load screens? Yes, it would cost a engine jump for them, which they really don't want to do, but my point still stands. Like, what could other games do? What other IPs could use this because their IP is too big? Star Wars? Star Wars necessitates many
Grandiose.
planets. Yeah. There is no production of Star Wars, book, show, movie, comic, that stays on a single planet. None I've seen. Not one. Star Trek, obviously, not that Paramount wants to do anything with making an actual good Star Wars game, a Star Trek game. It's fine. Babylon 5 is getting a remake. Maybe? Come on. Like, there so many IPs could pick this up and actually do something with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the potential for using it for as far as other things beyond game creation. The CGI environments, for creating movies and TV shows, instead of artists having to do things, by hand over and over and over again. You're paying someone for a year to do the same thing, 50,000 times, imagine how much more that they could create. And that's whew.
This is another reason why I'm kind of sad that it's not an Unreal Engine, because Unreal Engine is a movie production engine. It's been used in a lot of movies. And
maybe
another
someday.
reason I'm kind of sad that that Lumberyard went open source, like, we don't want to actually make money on this engine kind of way. Not that I've seen any like movement on that, like what their plans are, but reading the post, it's like, hey, we don't want to develop the engine anymore. What it kind of read like. So hopefully Amazon is still backing their engine, and not just throwing up on a free-to-play model engine. Hopefully. But yeah, these tools are insane. And I cannot wait to play with Rastar.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait for the update in 2 days. We've got we've got
I wonder if there'll be like, if later on construction will be a profession. Like not just the pioneer, but like vehicles and things to facilitate a whole construction and a complexity in the construction to warrant like calling someone in instead of doing it yourself.
A specialist, somebody who's good at it. Hey, I need you to make me a base with this, this, and this here, but I only have this much money. Can you do it? You know.
Yeah. That.
Well,
interesting times.
Yeah, very interesting, especially because they're showing us, they showed us a little bit of procedural location creation. They're showing us Rastar. We're going to be getting more and more updates of production using these tools as they continue to develop. I'm just insanely excited because, we've talked about it multiple times here. Just got stupid excited at them showing us underground facilities. And I got excited not only because they look super cool, but because Nazeris and I have been reading the monthly reports, in depth for almost a year now. And we were doing it before, but now we've been doing it together for almost a year now. And because we both are nuts for UI and tool stuff, we really hyper focus on these things. And so when Nazeris and I both saw the underground facility presentation, we're like, oh my gosh, look what they're going to be making with these tools. And then when they showed off that little snippet of the, here, let me, hold on, I've got it. Where'd it go? It's in my Discord.
Especially because they're like,
this guy,
they're going to be doing the exact same thing they're doing with caves or with space stations. It's the exact same premise.
Yeah.
And the thing I want to see with the tool, now that it's like super cheap, you can make a space station in minutes. You can make this thing in a month or two. The thing I want to see is bigger space station interiors, bigger caves, expansive underground facilities, not just 5-minute areas, but maybe like half an hour areas, hour areas you can spend in them. Like,
and this giant asteroid with a big old hangar that you can pull into.
You're definitely more excited about the ones than I am.
I am, because that is peak sci-fi for me. Is well, why build a station when we can save on construction costs by just boring holes into asteroids? Let's see. Blizzard says, do you think we'll see bespoke stations around the verse, or will every possible option be included in the tool for randomization? I think that there will be levels of bespokeness. They'll use the tool to generate procedurally as much as they can, but they'll tweak it in ways to make it bespoke for certain station locations, or especially if they're stations specifically mentioned in the lore, in order to give
So
them less of a mass-produced feel.
this is actually a really good plug for your series. Lore equals gameplay.
Yeah.
The R&R stations in lore are cookie cutter stations.
Mm-hmm.
There are stations that are not cookie cutter stations.
Yeah.
So they will either have a bespoke tile set and just use the tool, because that's how you build a good. Like, the tool is not just the same look; it's also architectural fundamentals. So it also helps placing signage to get players through the area. So I almost guarantee that interiors will almost always be randomized, just the tile sets might be swapped out. Exteriors, I'm pretty sure those are modular, but also bespoke. They actually just do build them. They give an artist, hey, build an exterior. And Ruin Station is one of those much more bespoke than random.
It's a Gold Horizon terraforming support station, and so it is bespoke to an extent, and so there will be design elements that you will see in other Gold Horizon stations around the verse, but there won't be many Gold Horizon stations around the verse. There's only so many places that needed terraforming support in the verse, versus the R&R stations. They're going to be like at most Lagrange points in settled systems. Well, there'll be hundreds of them, and with variability, but not you're going to recognize it when you see it.
Yeah.
I think the other ones that will probably be much more limited in as far as looking generic will be stations for unique factions, where we only have a handful of them scattered across the verse. So like a UEE Marine space station, there aren't going to be a lot of those. There'll be probably quite a few UEE Navy stations, but not UEE Marine stations, just because they don't spend much. Don't
Jericho
use stations
is a
all that
really
much.
good example of something that came out of the procedural system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that
will
there.
have a procedural interior, and that's the exterior, and that's a small version. The other things that I think will be bespoke, but have bespokeness, but will be shipyards at Lagrange points, because most ships are not, the overwhelming majority of ships are not built like they are on Orison. Small ships can be built on planets, but big ships are built at Lagrange point shipyards, and I think those will be pretty bespoke.
Also, spaceship parking lots exist near major ports.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, there will be. I mean, there aren't too many instances in the lore of space stations that are, this is a one-off. It was built for this specific purpose. There's only one of them. Yeah.
There's a reason. Because the lore team knew that Montreal, and even back then, they knew, 2012, the lore team knew we're not going to build this polygon by polygon every single step of the way. We are going to need, like Chris probably told him, we are going to need procedural tech to get this done. We cannot spend 10 years per system, 4 quarters per station. We can't do that.
I will say
so they wrote in from the beginning that these stations were, this company did most stations here. Like, we still have other themes, like CTR. That's the Shion-based R&R.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. For the Lagrange point, basically the equivalent of truck stop gas space stations, you have R&R, the rest and relax. You've got CTR, and I guarantee you Cryastro is going to be making a comeback. We're going to see Cryastro stations in game. And so you might see systems that are, almost like your local monopolies, maybe Stanton is more of a R&R hub, whereas in Terra they are friendly with the Xi'an and stuff. There's more CTR, or maybe because CTR is new, you'll see them scattered along the Xi'an border systems, but not really, further into UEE space. And there will be variety between the two. You'll know you're at a gas station. You'll know you're at a truck stop, but you'll know, okay, this one's definitely CTR. It's just like going, okay, this is, I'm on a platform in Orison versus, in a bubble in New Babbage. Okay, yeah, this is humanity. This is a landing zone, a city, but they are different cities.
And they do have different levels of service. I forget which one of the three is basically a do-it-yourself garage. You can do anything you want in the garage. There's one of the other three, or the other two of the three, is that you are not allowed to use this as a personal garage. This is an automated garage. You pay us for our service and you get out.
Yeah. Oregon gas stations.
So... And
we don't allow you
R&R,
to fuel your own spaceship. We
Yeah.
don't trust you enough. You're not a responsible adult enough to.
Yeah, and as you were just saying, like R&R will be like the only option as you get more towards Sol, but as you get towards Terra, CTR, being a Xi'an-based company, will be more and more and more popular. Because everything from Xi'an spreads from the Xi'an border into the Empire. And it will get nowhere near Earth because Central is. Oh, man. We got 2 hours, 17 minutes, yeah.
That's a good question, and unless we have any other questions from those of you still in chat, I just want to say thank you for joining us and coming and hanging out. I will hopefully have this episode up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So check it out there. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We're always looking for and we appreciate your feedback. And you can also provide that feedback in my Discord. Nazeris and I are always available and happy to listen and incorporate the feedback. But please help this my channel here on Twitch and on YouTube to grow. Because everything I do is for charity. If you have seen in the chat at the top, it says stackup.org. $50 raised of our $200 goal, and we'll just keep on increasing that goal. But not only can you donate directly to charity via that donation tool, but all of my monetization from Twitch and YouTube will go to stackup.org. Because I believe in what they do. And so if you want to learn more, go look up their website, but they connect veterans and members of the military with video game communities to help them, cope with PTSD, struggles with being deployed, all that sort of stuff. It's a mission I believe in because I'm prior and current military, have deployed numerous times. So yeah, help me, help them, feed the algorithm, watch my stuff, come hang out and talk with Nazeris and I, and we appreciate it. But yeah, that's all we have for this evening. Nazeris, do you want to tell them what they need to do?
Well, first I'm giving them a little taste of what my scanner anomaly should have been.
Oh yeah, gosh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Anyway, so deep diving, not really deep diving, but giving a cohesive, altogether portfolio of Aegis Dynamics, not only like their startup and where they are at now, but going through and picking up every single ship, every single event. Why do they have the reputation of being the absolute worst possible manufacturer, never buy their... Speaking as a transitionalist. And we're going to get in a lot of lore. It's going to be a very lore-heavy scanner anomaly. This is going to be... Do we do scanner anomalies when we do the monthly reports? If we do...
No, not next week, but...
Okay, so not next week. In 2 weeks, I'll be back to give this one. And it's going to be specifically... Like, this was asked by a friend of mine, why are they so terrible? And he said it as a joke, but I'm like, actually, that's a really good point.
The 14th.
The 14th. So it's not only going to be just a good roundup of information on Aegis Dynamics, everything. This is going to become a series for me that I'm going to be doing here on the show. I'm going to go through and run through all these different manufacturers. Like, the Consolidated Outland one might be just a little footnote I do sometime because it's like, Elon Musk builds spaceships. That's basically all he got currently. But it's also going to help me build out my timeline. So, with all
two
the
birds, one
planets
stone. I
that
like
we
it.
talk about, yeah, all the planets we talk about, all the ships will be on the timeline, and when they release, as close as possible, because the stupid Avenger is like the second half of the 28th century. It's like, that helpful. So I'm gonna research into, I'm gonna look up all the stupid concept guides, concept sales guides, catalog things, what are they called?
Oh, like for the
Brochures.
comlinks? Yeah, the brochures.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be a deep dive, and I couldn't do it in 2 hours, and I forgot that we actually had Scanner Anomalies this one. So yeah, that's what we're doing there.
Mm-hmm. So next Monday will be the monthly reports because we're getting those tomorrow. So that'll be next Monday. The following Monday is your Scanner Anomaly on Aegis Dynamics. I'm going to be doing what I did today for the procedural locations tool on Mighty Bridge with Rastar. And I actually picked that before they mentioned that they're going to be showing us Rastar, a Rastar update on Thursday's ISD. So it worked out perfectly for me. So that will be on the 14th before I go back to work for a few days.
You just Blizzrad, but it's kind of true. I mean, actually, I don't want to spoil too much because there's actually, in the current Aegis Dynamics, there is actually a glimmer of really good, a lot of good. Also, mining version of the Retaliator as a teaser. I don't know about Drake yet. I look forward to my deep dive into Drake to see what actually makes current Drake, because 2 years ago I think we just went through a CEO change at Drake, and the last CEO was what's the word? Not sympathetic to pirates, but she said some things that she shouldn't have said. And the current owner of Drake, the current CEO, it is very, very good at selling Drake as for the people kind of ships. So I look forward to going into the Drake one. I look forward to all of them because there's gonna be a lot of stuff.
I am looking forward to meeting the new Drake CEO at IAE.
Yeah,
that was really cool that they showed. That they showed
a pirate in the Kraken, but the Idris.
Yeah,
that's because no one who sees a pirate in the Kraken lives to tell that he's seen a pirate in the Kraken.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that they're finally showing us another CEO of a ship manufacturer. We've only really seen Space Elon Musk, from Consolidated Outland, and I wonder if that's going to be a thing. Like, we're going to see the other CEOs, in coming IAEs, talking about how Aegis is rebranding themselves, or Anvil's mission statement, or RSI's technological superiority, all that sort of stuff.
Or who's going to partner with Shubin to make a spaceship?
Oh.
Because they've been around a while. They know what spaceship needs.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a string they could pull. That'd be really cool. Like, there are so many strings in this lore. It's great. And every time they write anything,
those will be our Scanner Anomalies for the 14th, along with the Roadmap Roundup. So I'm apologizing in advance, but the 14th is going to be a long episode. We'll try and maybe we can get started an hour earlier, because we
also have a guest.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is the Roadmap Roundup will be shorter, because I don't think it's going to, they're not going to have a bunch of changes to on the Shinytracker, because it's not continuation of the quarterly updates. Yeah, Blizzard, I totally agree. I've always loved the Pioneer announcement, and we definitely need more of that. And I'm hoping that we get more of that. Plus, it'd be like, how cool would it be if you could just do something stupid like go up and interact with the Drake CEO on the show floor, be like, "Hey, will you sign my Drake Corsair plushie?" Something just and,
That
and
would
it's
be
like an animation.
That would be a great like interaction with the lore.
Mm-hmm.
To have a sign a thing interaction and a take a picture with.
Yeah.
And so you don't
get
like give
a
us like a camera, but like
the Drake CEO.
Let us use our screenshot button and let us take like an actual image from ourselves and let us take pictures of us with the CEO and let him pose. So it's not just like, cardboard cutout of the CEO. That would be
the Drake CEO T-pose.
Oh. Yeah. Oh man, so many ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So which one was going to get employed at CIG to tell them all?
Yeah. I would gladly. I don't know what I would do for CIG, but I would gladly quit my job and leave medicine forever if I thought I could go to work for CIG remotely and live where I live and just telecommute for
I know
CIG.
exactly what I'd be doing. QA, producer, or designer.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I would say that order, but possibly that order, because I want to end up in design. I don't want to end up producer, because producer, like, even though they're great and they're necessary, they don't get to do a ton of stuff. Do a Jackson, ask them how many bodies do an SCU. How many civilian ships can be shot down by colors in an hour? Woo! You want to be ready to be blacklisted by the Drake CEO? That's how you do it.
All right. Well,
so now we can outro.
I have to. Yeah, now we can outro because I have to get up and actually go teach in the morning. So.
How fun!
Yeah.
So, thank you everyone for watching. As I said, it's been a shorter one, like a half an hour short almost, or over a half an hour. But that's because I screwed up and didn't give myself enough time. So I also have YouTube. I'm gonna plug my stuff too because I need to, or else nothing happens. I don't do a lot of Star Citizen content currently because I'm bad at making. Scared it'll come out badly. So I'm just afraid of making content. But I do run a YouTube channel, mostly Space Engineers and Lily Planet right now. Hopefully it will change, like especially with the series I'm doing. But yeah, we will be doing some things. I have some very fun plans in the future with the YouTube channels. I also have a Discord, that stuff. I actually should probably like get links for this crap. Give me a moment. Running everywhere trying to find it. There we go. There's that. That be the Discord. You can just go there, and there'll be links to the thing in the YouTube channels in the Discords. But yeah, thank you all for joining again. I don't know why I want to say it twice. Because mostly, why am I forgetting something? Anyway, thank you all for watching. As always, be kind.
Have a good night.